When it flips over 7:30, I know what it is.
And I was by myself. I had to work around the track and head to the front to 10:02. And I had to switch to the side, so they kind of messed
Yeah.
the pattern up.
That's
By
right.
yourself, you knocked it building open 7 miles.
That's an old saying. I've heard that before.
Right.
Yeah, your mama
I get all
probably
that
said
first.
that.
Actually, my grandma.
You really dated me, man.
Have you been doing the practice?
I got that. That was one of my grandmas.
Just the last couple of years, it's more and more.
Sure was.
It's just,
We call the meeting of the Mecklenburg County Planning Commission to order. Please stand and join with me in the pledge of allegiance to the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. We're now going to public hearing. I'd like to go over one item before we get started. The Mecklenburg County Planning Commission has certain protocols for our meeting. One, the applicant will be given 30 minutes to present their application. The applicant will be advised when they have 5 minutes and 2 minutes left. Each speaker will be given 3 minutes to address the Planning Commission. The time will be strictly enforced. Each speaker will be advised when 2 minutes has elapsed. Each speaker will be advised when 3 minutes has elapsed. Each speaker will be permitted to address the Planning Commission only once in the 3 minutes. Opportunity to speak cannot be transferred from one speaker to another. Speaker should face the Planning Commission and address their comments to the Planning Commission and not the others in the meeting room. The Planning Commission is conducting the public hearing to receive comments from interested parties. Neither the Planning Commission nor its staff will respond to questions during the public hearing. The Planning Commission asks that everyone at the meeting be respectful to the others who are present and asks that those present not applaud speakers. As a reminder, it is inappropriate at the public meeting to make personal attacks and defamatory or disparage individuals identifiable groups. Profanity will not be tolerated. Prior to beginning your comments, please state your name and your address for the record. There's a sign-up sheet at the front right there if you hadn't signed up, if you'd like to speak. Also, the restrooms are through that door and out into the hallway. Please turn your cell phones on silent as well. First item on our agenda tonight is an application by Mecklenburg County Planning Commission to amend Mecklenburg County Subdivision Ordinance, Article 6, General Regulation, Section 6-4-2, delete site for collection of solid waste by the county, change to utility site by the county. Paragraph C, requirement of VDOT approval, delete each proposed solid waste collection site, change to proposed utility site. Paragraph E, conveyance of site, delete as solid waste collection site, change to utility site. Yes, sir. Are you here to speak for this application?
Since we are pretty much going to man sites throughout the county, it was recommended to take out the dumpster sites, but it is a utility that affords the county more flexibility to use it for either a substation, small substation, internet, whatever the case may be. So we needed to change the word.
All right. Is there anyone else here to speak for this application? Is there anyone here to speak against this application? Do we have any calls or letters? No calls or letters. Any discussion?
Well, I think it's a real good move that we needed to do. It kind of for the future down the road, what they determine for, because like I say, we're taking up the dumpsters, no more long on dumpster there. And so I've had subdivisions actually call me up and requesting the land back, but if we define them right, I think we can keep them for future things.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, you need a motion.
Yes, sir. I need a motion on this
Oh,
application.
Mr. Chairman, I move we approve.
Motion's been made to approve this application. Is there a second?
Second.
Second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, motion carried. Next item on our agenda is application by Mecklenburg County Planning Commission to amend the Mecklenburg County Subdivision Ordinance Article 13, enumeration, Section 13-1, delete paragraph E, fee for dumpster site requirement shall be $1,000. Yes, sir.
Taking it out, no more fees.
No more fees. All right. Is there anyone to speak for this application? Anyone to speak against this application? Any cause? All right, sir. Any
Mr. Chairman, let me make a motion we approve.
motion's been made to approve. Is there a second?
Second.
Second? All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed? Motion carries. Next item on our agenda is application by Mecklenburg County Planning Commission to amend the Mecklenburg County Ordinance Article 1, definitions, Section 1-224, utility buildings, add the following: shall have an approval letter for well and septic for the Mecklenburg County Health Department prior to any zoning or building permits being issued. Yes, sir.
Having issues with DIYs,
Yes, sir.
that they're getting these small storage buildings.
Mm-hmm.
And as the way it's set up now is if it's under 200 square feet, you can have one electrical outlet and one light fixture and no well, no septic. And they're staying now.
Uh-huh.
This will require them to have well and septic approval.
Okay. Is there anyone here to speak for this application? Anyone to speak against this application? Did we have any calls or letters on this, sir?
No, sir.
Any discussion? Do I hear a motion on this
Mr.
application?
Chairman, I move we approve.
Motion's been made to approve this motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carries. Next item on our agenda tonight is application by Tracy Young for a special exception permit to allow for a thrift store. This property is zoned agriculture, is located on the east side of Highway 1 and 1/10 mile north of its intersection with Red Lawn Road. This is in Electric District 4. Is there anyone here to speak for this application? Please come forward and state your name, please.
My name is Tracy Young.
Mhm.
Address 5330 Highway 1, Bracy, Virginia.
What can you tell me about your thrift store there?
I will be selling new used items. I also refurbish older items and try to prevent a lot of waste
Uh-huh.
area.
Okay. What are your hours gonna be there, kind of?
10 to 7.
10 to 7. Okay. All right. And you will have parking on site, is that correct?
Yes, I have plenty of parking.
Okay. All right. All right. Any other questions?
I have a question, Ms. Young. On your application, it says you are requesting a flea market, and in other parts it says a thrift store. This will be a thrift store, is that correct? And not a flea market?
I will be selling new and used items. I am also a paparazzi consultant.
Could you speak up?
Oh, I'm so sorry. I'm also a paparazzi consultant. As a disabled veteran, I have items from Thailand, Egypt, China, many other countries that me and my husband have traveled while we were in service. We have many, many items, and men and women and children, because we have 6 children that are grown and gone now. So we have many, many items for everybody. If we don't have it, you don't need it.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions? Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Is there anyone else here to speak for this application? Is there anyone here to speak against this application? We- Yes, ma'am. Just come up and state your name.
My name is Sylvia Kemper, and I'm adjourned to where she lives. This is my niece, and I'm 5408 Highway 1. And I'm for her having her flea market there. But my interest would also be if she had some milk and eggs and bread, because we don't have anything on one except the what is it, the Dollar General and South Hill. So I have no problem with her having her flea market there next door to me.
Okay,
Thank you all.
thank you.
Did you say your last name?
Kemper, Kemper.
Sylvia.
Yes. Thank you all.
Thank you.
You done?
Is there anyone else here to speak for this application? Anyone here to speak against this application? Do we have any calls or letters other than the one? Okay. All right, any discussion? Do I hear a motion on this application?
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
I'll second it.
Motion's been made to accept this application and second. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed, motion carries.
You need to back up for the 4 reasons to approve it.
Okay.
All right, you meant
For the approval?
to speak it? Okay. Recommended for approval. The county has approved these types of applications in the past. It will not be detrimental to the public welfare. It will not affect adversely the health and safety of persons or the neighborhood of the proposed use.
Next item on our agenda is a application by Seven Bridges Solar for a comprehensive plan review by the Mecklenburg County Planning Commission pursuant with Virginia Code 15.2-2232 of its proposed 499 acre out of 1,263.9 acres. This is a 80 megawatt solar energy facility to be located on the west side of Scotts Crossroads, Route 633, and on the east side of Courthouse Road, Highway 49, on the northeast side of Chase City. Is there anyone here to speak for this application? I see lots, so.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Mr. Chairman, Commissioners, my name is Matt Kearns. I head the development business for Long Road
Thank you.
across U.S. markets. But this project is very close to my heart because I started the project in 2017 when we signed our first lease with Mr. Mullen and entered the transmission queue through the traditional process. So 5 years later, here we are. Transmission studies are complete, and we could bring this project to construction as early as the end of next year. I think it's safe to say this is Mecklenburg County has the best solar resource in Virginia. This particular site is unique in that it will not be viewed from it will not be visible from public viewpoints. So we think it's a unique site, shielded by timber. And I'll go through the sort of history of our application. We were first before you, our first submission was 105 megawatts and exceeded the guidance that the county provided at 800 acres. We submitted that 2232 in August of 2021. We subsequently went back working with the community, doing environmental studies, geotech, a bunch of other work. We revised that design, shrunk it down to less than 500 acres. And then there's the 2-mile rule, which by shrinking the panels on the Mullen property, we were able to achieve that standard as well. So obviously that achieved the distance from Grasshopper Solar, to be specific. So that got us to the 2-mile greater than 2 miles, excuse me. So in the first go-round, the commission decided that the project was not substantially in accord. We acknowledged that. We did a bunch of work to bring the project, we believe, substantially into accord by adjusting the layout. And you can see in some of the slides that I've got in front of you that we shrunk the layout dramatically. So we'll go through that briefly. So our updated submission, which is in front of you, is 499 acres. It is 80 megawatts, and the project is greater than 2 miles away from Grasshopper. So we do believe the project is in substantial accord with the comprehensive plan. For a refresher, I think you all have seen this, 3.5 miles, the project is located 3.5 miles northeast of Chase City. Importantly, it's all on one parcel, right? So all the panels are on Mullen property. So it gave us a lot of kind of canvas to paint on. It allowed us to kind of, when you all gave us the feedback to go smaller, we were able to do that. So we're still 400 feet away from the Meherrin River, but we whacked off all those panels to the southwest and just kind of consolidated the layout. So I'll show you a couple of maps that represent that. So we'll still have 499 acres under lease on the site, within the fenced area. And then of that, 136 acres will be under panels. So it is a substantial reduction. The remaining leased area, importantly, will be used for timber and wildlife corridors. So I think that's also important, given the discussion about it'll be shielded from public view, which I think is a key point. So the site is obviously not visible from highways. It's over about a half a mile from the closest highway. Panels, like I said, will be set back 400 feet from the Meherrin River and from Scotts Cross Road. So I mentioned this earlier, but we've been in the interconnection process, which is it takes forever. We've been in that for 5 years, and we've come out the other side. So fortunately, we're still here, and we're one of a very small number of projects that were issued our interconnection agreement this year in the entire transmission system in this region. So it's a pretty scarce commodity, and we're able to move forward quickly. So if we move to the next slide, this is a comparison of our August 2021 2232 application filing. So all those pink blocks are the panels that encompass that 800 acre array. And then the figure on the right shows the consolidated array associated with our most recent application that's in front of you. So we went from 105 megawatts to 80 megawatts. And you can see we really took a lot of pains to consolidate as well. There was a lot of kind of empty space, and we tried to shrink it down to make it more efficient with feedback from agencies, community, county, and others. So we've really appreciated the interplay with the county and with the community. We continue to enjoy strong public support for the project, and we're excited to bring this investment to the county. And with that, I think unless there are questions on the specifics of the application and what we're doing on the commercial side, I will give it to Ann Neal, who can go through the regulatory piece of it.
Okay.
Happy to answer any questions on the first part.
Matt, how many
Yeah.
acres, when it was 105 megawatts, how many acres was that?
That was 800 in total leased. Yeah.
Okay. The panels were only 800 acres, and now we got 80 megawatts on 499 acres.
That's right.
Okay.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And 136 acres of panels.
Okay.
So we have this sort of buffer area to prevent shading, because you have to cut back to accomplish some shading. And then there's also these buffer areas that we talked about that will maintain visual shielding.
On your third page,
Yes,
you
sir.
had a substantially in accord. What do you mean by substantially?
I might have to-
Very much, not so much?
Yeah, I might have to defer to my
Extreme.
regulatory counsel on the use of that word. But I think the intent, from my perspective as a total layman in that piece of it, is that we met the 2 mile rule, and the acreage guidance, what was guidance, which is now part of the ordinance. So that was intended to capture that change.
You got all the bases covered. Okay.
We hope so. For sure.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman and members of the commission. My name's Ann Neal Cosby, and I'm a land use attorney for Wire Gill. I've been before you on a number of applications, so it's nice to be back. And your question is a good one, and actually the perfect segue, of what is substantially in accord, and, have you met all of the criteria? And so I'd like to go through a couple of slides, and it is a lot of regulatory discussion and a lot of legalese, but we do have an obligation to provide you evidence of why we think that this project does satisfy state law, and that's where the requirement comes in. So the Code of Virginia requires that before any public utility project, which includes these utility scale solar projects, can be constructed, the Planning Commission has an obligation to determine whether or not that project is substantially in accord, which means it doesn't have to be strictly in accord, but substantially. So, more than 50%, it's up to you, but it isn't, a strict finding. But if you find that it's mostly in accordance with the criteria that we're going to go through, that's the level that these projects should meet.
So you're saying it's not 100% then?
That's right. No, the General Assembly could have said must be in accordance with, and they didn't. So it did give you some flexibility. So yes, that word's definitely, that's straight from the Code of Virginia. Yes, sir. And so what the state code requires is that the general location and character of the proposed utility should be this substantially in accord with the comprehensive plan. So that's your your path forward of what you look at. So your comprehensive plan, and I remember when the Berkeley group came and helped you come up with the guidance for the comprehensive plan, had sort of two components to it. And the first were these solar guidelines, and how they're incorporated into the comprehensive plan. They're really criteria to consider when actually the Planning Commission and the board are considering special exception permits. So they kind of put the zoning in the comprehensive plan, but it's still, I think this commission has consistently looked at those criteria when they're deciding whether a project is substantially in accord with a comp plan. So there are these guidelines, and then there are also, the comprehensive plan as a whole. Does this project further those guidelines? So what I'd like to do, again, we have an obligation to prove our case to you, is go through first the guidelines and then quickly the goals, because they're really sort of, more objective. But we believe we check those boxes too. So the guidelines state that utility scale solar projects should be on brownfields or near existing industrial uses, close to transmission lines, avoiding prime farmlands, outside of identified growth boundaries, more than 1 mile from any town boundary, and outside the viewshed of any scenic, cultural, or recreational resource. And then there's another section that talks about the permitted size and scale, and that's where we get into this question that was then adopted into the zoning ordinance most recently. The project should be less than 500 acres, and the county has made that a hard stop with the zoning, and also shouldn't be located within 2 miles of another approved project, and so in that case, we've got Grasshopper that's sort of in this vicinity, and the first time around, this project was a little too close to Grasshopper. So I'd like to go through quickly how we believe we satisfy all of these criteria. The first issue on brownfield sites, there are really only 3 identified DEQ sites, so that one, I think, and they're all too small for utility scale solar, so I don't think that's really, a viable option. But it is next to, the Grasshopper site, and as Matt said, it's tucked away from timber. So, while we really don't consider solar industrial, it is in an area, that's avoiding residential. It's got buffers and setbacks to ensure that it's not visible, and it's a beneficial use of non-productive land. So I think we check that box. Should be located next to existing transmission lines. Yep, we check that box. Or obviously we wouldn't be here. We should avoid or minimize prime farmlands or farmlands of statewide importance. This site is currently not being used for agriculture, and this project won't remove any farmland from active production. There's a very small amount of prime farmland that would be impacted, but very, very small. So again, when you talk about substantial accord, we think we check this box. And then finally, once the project is decommissioned, this land can be viable again for agricultural use. So it really does preserve the farmland in this area and may actually benefit from the nutrients that are fed during the life of the project. The next slide, the project is outside it's not within a mile of Chase City, and it's not within a growth boundary. I think, as Matt said, and if you can tell from the site plans, at least the ones in the presentation, again, the site is surrounded mostly by timber and it's well buffered. And so as far as the protection of scenic, cultural, and recreational resources, I think we checked that box. We've got setbacks from adjacent boundaries and designated portions of the Meharon. So I think we checked that box. And as Matt said, we did go back and reduce the acreage for this project. I would say that from the time this project was first brought to the county, there's been so much discussion with the community, with leaders, with staff. We brought the project to the Planning Commission. It didn't work that time. We've come back. So again, just trying to bring this project forward. And then it's now not within 2 miles from Grasshopper. So again, checking all the boxes here. The comprehensive plan goals, they're a little bit more amorphous, but we think that for economic development, when you look at projects like solar, this project, but solar in general, these projects create jobs, during construction. And I think you've seen that. That's been an impact for this county, that local businesses sort of experience these revenue boosts. And then post-construction, the opportunity for other economic development, to come to Mecklenburg, with renewable energy sort of as an excellent resource. And then there's the economic development, that's sort of the influx of siting agreements that are required for these types of projects. So the siting agreement, those are the direct contributions to the county, that would be negotiated with the Board of Supervisors. And then, of course, you've got your revenue share payments through the revenue ordinance. So again, you've got post-construction, pre-construction, and then direct contributions to the county. These types of projects will have an ability to support education, specialized training. There's been a lot of coordination, with local educational groups in the county and at the college and local high school level. The next slide. With regard to the protection of natural and cultural resources and water quality, this has been obviously the location of this project where it is, its adjacency to the Meharon River. There's a setback that's been designed into the project of at least 400 feet off of the South Meharon River. And so that's significant and intentional in order to protect the Meharon. Wildlife corridors, as Matt discussed, and forested wetland stream buffers will be maintained along the Meharon. The footprint for disturbance, the plan is to limit it where practical, and then trying to limit grading. I think as these projects have gone forward, I think everybody in the industry is learning better ways to work with stormwater and ENS, and now we're seeing sort of the state speaking to how these projects will be, need to be constructed. So there'll be stormwater management limitations to the extent possible. And finally, the native grasses and wildflowers will be on the site to add organic matter. I don't need to read through all of these, but again, wildlife corridors and the just additional protection of streams. I think that was basically the same thing. And then related to the natural and cultural resources, the comprehensive plan requires that these projects don't adversely strain public utilities and facilities. And here, this project's not going to do anything to the existing utility and transportation network, and it actually is obviously providing renewable energy infrastructure as it's constructed. And again, it encourages energy and resource conservation and promotes recycling and green buildings. So these are all criteria that are, this is all taken from your comprehensive plan. And so we check each and every one of those boxes as far as economic development, cultural resources, protection of the environment, and then ultimately the strategic economic development plan in the comprehensive plan specifically states that alternative energy is one of the targeted industries suited to the assets of the county. So again, that's language directly from the comprehensive plan. So again, we've checked the box for the strategic plan, for the goals, for the guidelines for solar energy. We think we've brought a project to you over time that is substantially in accord with the comprehensive plan. And so we hope that you would agree with that and would find that the project meets the criteria of the state code. And I'll answer any questions if you have them. Yes, sir.
Of the 499 acres, which is within the fence, and the 136 acres, which will be under panels, is any of that in cultivation, or is it all covered with trees and have to be bulldozed off?
I will defer to the project team on that question.
Good evening, Chairman Crump and Commissioners. My name is Darren Lawrence. I work for Long Road Energy. And to answer your question, 100% of the site's in silviculture and has been in silviculture for many decades. So we're not affecting any areas that are being farmed for soy or corn.
So none of it's being farmed?
Correct. It's all trees.
It is all trees?
That's
so
correct.
So you're going to have to come in and clear all the trees with
499
and push all
acres.
that down?
Yes, sir.
Including the topsoil?
In some areas, we will need to grade. So we're putting in a tracker system that follows the sun. And if you can picture the tubes can't go up and down steep hills. So we have to cut off the high points and fill in some of the low points in order for those torque tubes to make the tolerances to then turn. We have engineers that reduce that cut and fill, what we call cut and fill, and try not to disturb the soil any more than we have to because it helps things grow back better, but it also costs money. So yeah, we try to minimize that as much as possible.
Just out of curiosity, do you have red clay right there in that area?
I cannot answer that question. We've done a geotechnical analysis for stability for the overall project to determine pile depths, but I do not remember off the top what the soil profile is. I know we've got state mapping that I could look up and get back to you on that, but I know it's a mixture of different soils throughout the site.
Well, red clay will grow things, but Mecklenburg County has a lot of red clay. I'm not from this county. I'm from Northumberland County. And when I got here, all I saw was red clay, and I couldn't believe they grow anything in it.
That's probably why that land has got pine trees on it, Mr. Rand.
That's right. That's exactly right.
Well, sir, if I could maybe answer the question, which is, can we get anything to grow under the panels? Is that really what you're getting at?
Well, you've already covered that. You said you're going to seed it down.
That's right. And I just, if I can make the point that maybe you've seen projects that didn't grow vegetation very quickly. And I would answer that, again, I work on projects throughout the whole country, and I have a contractor that does development and analyzes the soil pH, the chemistry, augmentation needs. We look at compaction. And then we develop a specific seed mix, first to get establishment of vegetation, like right away, what you call cover crop, and then for long-term perennial growth. And where we've seen failures in vegetation is when you don't do that full analysis, and then even the time of year. Like if you plant one seed in the spring, you'll need a different, you know better than I do, right? You'll need a different seed in the fall or in the winter. So we make sure we prescribe the right seed at the right time with the right pH, chemistry, compaction, kind of everything throughout it. And that becomes a contract requirement for our engineers and our construction team.
Thank you.
Is there anyone else here to speak for this application?
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the Planning Commission. My name is Blake Cox, and I'm from Chesterfield. Some of you may recognize me from my previous meetings earlier this year regarding your recently passed solar ordinance, and I would like to commend you for taking the time to get an ordinance in place so landowners may move forward with these types of projects. Your ordinance incorporates setbacks and buffers, preservation of growth areas, and decommissioning rules, all hallmarks of a good policy. And having a good policy really allows you to know if you have a good project that fits within the county. And I think that's exactly what we have here tonight with Seven Bridges Solar, a very good project that fits with the county. In previous meetings regarding the Seven Bridges Solar, the major concerns with the Planning Commission were the total size and the project distance from the closest town. The project was previously more than 500 acres, less than 2 mile restriction, or under the 2 mile restriction. Now we've seen the plans being drawn back significantly to meet both the acreage standard and the distance the project can be from a town. This is a huge effort to make sure that supervisors, commissioners, staff, the community feel like they're getting a project that fits Mecklenburg County. So please continue to support the property rights of landowners and allow them to use their land as they please, as long as they don't violate the rights of their neighbors. I would urge you to move forward with approving the Seven Bridges Solar Project and for the county continue to be a leader for smart and responsible clean energy. Thank you.
Is there anyone else here to speak for this application?
This one, we got something like 65 complaints about it.
Mm-hmm.
Good evening. My name is Alden Farringer. I'm the mayor of Chase City. Wanted to thank you for letting me come up here and speak. We've heard a lot of affirmative responses to questions that have been raised in the past and some ways that the requirements have kind of limited what can be done. And Longroad Solar has kind of come back and kind of answered in the affirmative to those points. I've not seen a company come through that's been so willing to talk with and work with and respond and change and adapt to fit something and make it work. It's been a pleasure to deal with them. But more importantly, I think it's something that's good for Chase City. Though this is not directly in Chase City, it's something that is very tied to our community. And with that, there's been in years past a sense that maybe Chase City isn't as business-friendly a community as people might like. And I would certainly like to see that change. Not just for any company, not for something that doesn't make sense for us, not for something that's not good for us, and not just for any reason. But I think this has been a pleasantly ethical company to deal with, and somebody I would like to hold up as a representative of please take a look at them. This is how we want you to interact with us. This is how we want to be respected. This is how we want to be listened to. And it would be a kind of a good positive role model to kind of hold up to other companies looking to come to our area and do business. So I would please ask you to think of that and help us to, I guess, change that perception about us. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else here to speak for this application? Is there anyone here to speak against this application? Did we have any?
Just the emails that I gave you.
Okay. And we had a previous from the last meeting. Did we have anything from that either? We didn't have anything left over from that. Okay. Discussion?
Robert, we have talked about it, and I don't know whether my question I bring, do we do that in this process, but we talked about the possibility of not clearing the whole project at one time. Did we ever come up with clearing a 100 acres or 200 acres at a time. Have we set that yet, or do we do that at the next step? Or if
That would
it
be, one of the conditions that you can impose.
be in the
under
conditions
SEP.
to talk about that? Okay.
Any others?
No, well, Mr. Chairman, the only thing I see, I know we approved one last month for Dominion. Looking at this, I really don't see a lot of difference in this one than the one that this board, planning commission, approved last month. But within saying that, you know, it's been pretty much a practice of the board that, that if it's in my district, that I make the motion, but I would like to not make the motion in this one at all, because of being on the Board of Supervisors, you know, I get kind of the feedback from the people there. And it's not so much whether it applies or not, but I kind of have to listen to them. So at this time, I'd rather not be the one to make the motion on this particular one.
Any other discussion?
Well, one thing we know for sure, it's substantially in the court.
All right. All right. Any other discussion? Do I hear a motion on this application? And please refer to your sheet in making your motion, so whatever that may be.
I make a motion that we approve this. It is, the purpose facility will provide temporary employment. Will produce green energy. The purposed facility will only have 499 acres of fenced-in solar panels, and they are substantially in accord with our comprehensive plan.
Okay, motion's been made. Is there a second?
Second.
Second? Robert, with the roll call vote on this, please, sir. Whenever you get ready.
Mr. Rainey,
Yes.
Mr. Hayes,
Yes.
Ms. Dennis,
Yes.
Mr. Lassiter,
Yes.
Mr. Watson,
Yes.
Mr. Crump,
No.
Mr. Brinkley,
No.
Mr. Parker,
Yes.
motion carries as approved on a vote of 6-2.
Okay, motion carries 6-2. We're now going to close public hearing. Approval of the minutes for the May 22nd, 2022 Planning Commission meeting. Mr. Ramey, sir.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, we have reviewed the minutes and they are correct, and I move we approve the minutes of May 26,
Okay, motion,
2022.
motion's been made to approve. Is there a second?
Second.
Second? All those in favor say aye. All those opposed? Motion carries. Mr. Administrator, sir, whenever you have a moment. Take your time.
Everybody should have a copy of the zoning report. And the building inspectors, my zoning permits were up from last year at 57/2021, 73/2022. The roads and city control plans went from 0 to 23. Questions on those?
No, sir, I don't think so. Do we have,
He will have the meeting next month.
we'll have a meeting next month? Okay. All right. Any other discussion? Do I hear a motion, we adjourn?
Move we adjourn.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
All those in favor, get up and run out.